Hey, welcome to Live on One, a miniatures and gaming podcast, or whatever. You guys know if you clicked on this, or maybe you don't because this episode's a little different. Here tonight with Simon.
Hey, how are you?
The second intro was way better, and also Ben.
Hey, that's me. I'm Ben.
Hey Ben, how's it going?
Oh, we're living the dream, just packing. And Bork said that I couldn't have a fan on during this podcast, so I'm just slowly melting
Awesome.
away. So
Good, good. Like Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, just slowly melting.
Come back in winter.
I'm a good Simon, and I are good Slavs. We're just melting away.
It's not too hot here today, so I'll take it.
Yeah, it wasn't here either, so I don't know what's going on in New York, but
right.
yeah. So as part of our kind of continuing series, which Ben and I are on more than probably we should admit to our loved ones, we're covering this is not that series. We're play something different. We're going to talk today a little bit about the game Trench Crusade. Fun fact, I do want to say this. Simon and I did a previous take earlier, so second time saying this, but not for you. One of our most popular episodes that we've released to this day is actually about Trench Crusade. We covered it a long time ago when it first came out. I think that was Nick and I. Maybe Maddox was on there. I can't quite remember. But anyways, clearly, there's not a ton of content out there or something like that for it. But yeah, today we're going to talk a little bit about that. Simon is kind of the player here. More experienced player of this kind of like super different game. And so I guess without further ado, just kind of dive right in. So Simon, why do you play this game and like kind of what makes it different? And just we'll talk about the lore first. So the setting wise, yeah.
So for me, definitely, the setting is a big part of it, and the general aesthetics of the game. So basically, long story short, Trench Crusade is alternate history where portals to hell were opened during the Crusades at the turn of the first millennium, and now it's been continuous demon-human warfare since. So the game takes place in a World War I setting of trench warfare between different factions of demons and humans.
Very cool. Ben, how do you feel about all this? I don't know if you want to divulge what you do for a living, but
So for those who don't know, I'm a United Methodist minister, and I love nerd games and play lots of nerd games. Like Bork was saying, I probably play way too many different ones. But
nah.
Gamer ADD is fun.
Gotta catch them all, right?
Gotta catch them all. I think the setting is really interesting. It invokes some really neat, different historical tugs and hints. But basically, where the path kind of shifts is around I think it's the Third Crusade when they retake Jerusalem, and those pesky Knights Templar start fiddling with things that they shouldn't. You Knights Templar. And oopsie-daisy, we opened a gate to hell. Whoops, that's actually a problem. It's really cool. It is very focused on horror and some more it's more grimdark focused.
Yeah.
Than most other skirmish games that I've seen. So if you like grimdark, this game is really, really up your alley.
Yeah. It's I think we mentioned this on our first recording as well. I don't know why I keep referencing that. No one is going to hear that.
but they have to know.
Yeah, they have to know.
But we were talking, it's so 40K, at least initially is kind of grim dark par excellence. This takes it I think a notch further. Yeah. Especially with model design. So
I think there's a lot more. One of the things that helps, I think, push Trench Crusade into the more grimdark direction is that there's a lot more overt body horror in general. There's a lot of viscera, there's a lot of martyrs, like people are dying and being actively bled out on some of the models. It's very H.R. Geiger-esque. So like basically the guy who designed the xenomorph from Alien and like a bunch of famous Hollywood monsters and like very anxious settings in cinema in like the 70s and 80s. He was a very good designer for that. So it's like you feel this like in the models, it feels very oppressive, very grim, very dire. Like there's not much to let you that inspires you to feel good in this game. Like it's all downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Surprisingly, in the setting, when an actual portal to hell opens up, it's not good for the world. Spoiler. The world's like, oh, this is bad. This is bad. I actually think that they do a really good job of talking about faith in really respectful ways. They don't really make any, full accusations or, insulting rhetoric that I have found in any of the lore or in the conversations. And I really appreciate that. Obviously, some people get a little wary when that's the setting, right? Is, based on, an actual Judeo-Christian kind of esque mythos, right? And people get a little antsy about that. But I think they do a really wonderful job as we talk about one of the factions, which is the Iron Sultanate, right? I think they do a really good job of being inclusive in ways that are meaningful. So yeah, it's got my 2 thumbs up of approval, if that means anything to anybody. So,
every game,
I'll second it. Like I think they do a very good job of like leaning more into the alternate history side of things, more than like any doctrinal aspects. So like you're getting more into the nitty gritty of trench warfare more than anything else, flavored with like demons and severed limbs.
Some severely grotesque demons.
Like the Lord of Tumor for me is definitely one of those models where it's like kind of Nurgle-esque, where it's like a big monster with a lot of
Nurgle on crack. Let's be fair.
Yeah, like the figure has like pilgrims holding chalices just to collect the pus that's leaking out of the monster. So like it gives you an idea of just like how big, gross, and disgusting everything is.
Yes. Okay. So with that in mind, who would you say this game is not for?
Definitely people who are kind of squeamish or are not fan of body horror and like the Evil Dead kind of violence. Like everything's kind of over the top, extremely violent, bloody, and gore. And I think like if that's not your cup of tea, Trench Crusade is probably not for you. I think if you don't like at least flavor wise things delving into the like real life horrors of war, it's probably not for you as well. But I think it does a good job of like knowing its target audience and like marketing to their niche of like weird shit in World War One era.
Yeah, and I mean to be fair, like when this came out, like I was just transitioning from, or when it was announced, I was just transitioning basically from 40K, and so I was kind of in the know a little bit more in those kind of communities. And I will say, like, the 40K market's huge, right? Because Grimdark clearly appeals to some form of, like, I don't know, cultural ethos in our time or something, So at least that's like satire, right? And so when this, a lot of like that overlap from the 40K community. People are like, "Well, if you like 40K, you're gonna love this," like. Cool. So we talked a little bit about the lore, but do we want to dive more into the setting and kind of describe maybe factions? Iconic factions, characters, and their models. Like, we can do that all at once, kind of.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'll probably get it off to start. So basically, in Trench Crusade, there's 2 quote-unquote main camps. You have the humans and the demonic factions. On the human side, you have 3 main factions. And so basically all factions in Trench Crusade have sub-factions, or like they're called variants, where they change or tweak the rules of your models and like give them a different setting in otherwise the same large faction. So like the 6 basic ones you have on the human side, the Iron Sultanates, which Ben has mentioned, which is basically modern day Ottoman Empire. You have New Antioch, which is kind of modern day Holy Roman Empire, and you have the Trench Pilgrims, which are like the more quote unquote wider nets or more generic human faction. On the demon side, you have the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpents, which is like the more big, large demons, the more like classic devils that are like larger. They embody the 7 deadly sins, which is what the serpent is for, and depending on the sin you choose, it changes all of your models a lot. You have the Black Grail, which is the closest analogous to Nurgle, so it's like the monsters and pestilence and all the gross. The faction that's the most lent into the body horror side of things, and then you have they're on the tip of my tongue.
Is it the Heretic Legion?
The Heretic Legion, thank you.
Are those just like dudes?
For the most part, they're like the Trench Pilgrim equivalent to the demon factions, but they're the most human out of the demonic factions. Like they're mostly comprised of humans.
Okay. And then you have the Artillery Witch, which was like kind of a meme when they first started. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely one of the iconic models of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there's definitely 3 or 4 models in their line that really exemplifies the aesthetic of Trench Crusade, and the Artillery Witch is definitely one of them.
Yeah. What'd you call the Shrine one?
The Shrine Anchorite, which is basically a big mecha that's also a cathedral. It looks super fucking rad. It's definitely one of the more evocative models of the range. I think the Lord of Tumors, I would call it one of them as well. Like it's very distinct visual identity. And probably like the Brazen Bull from the Iron Sultanate, which is like a big minotaur with an artillery cannon for arm. Like there's a few of these models that are like just visually very impressive that you can associate with each of the factions.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite models. It's the Brazen Bull.
He looks really rad.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find this this thing, the Lord of Tumors, because I can't find it anywhere. But anyways, okay. So
I'll send it to you.
Okay. So the models are, we've kind of talked about them a little bit, but just to kind of like summarize, the models are very, very, very grimdark. They're very horror themed, World War I themed, as we kind of mentioned. So they really do a good job. If not, I don't know. Like the models are sick.
Yeah, they're really gorgeous.
Yeah. And you know, even like the new Anatok, like they do a good job of like making these kind of like grim, dark World War I knights, which is kind of crazy, right? So the aesthetics of each of these warbands is, I think, from inception of this game, like really fleshed out. Like there was never a moment when I saw this where I was like, "Oh, those factions don't have any identity." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're all very visually distinct from one another.
Yeah, and
I think it's important to probably add now, before we get too far, is the vast majority of the range of Trench Crusade is STLs, right? So this is you're going to need to either purchase them off a secondary market like an Etsy, or print them yourself, or if you have a friend. So I think they've started to venture into making some of their own stuff, which has been pretty cool. There's a 2-player starter set that recently just came out, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think it's still on pre-order. Wasn't it still on pre-order?
It's either on pre-order or like just coming out. Like we're pretty much within its range of hitting the shelves.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So that's when we go to the who's this game not for, if you're looking to buy the range, some of these cool models at your local hobby store, you're not going to find them there.
I have seen some actually. The resin kits I've seen in stores.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah. That's like my bad.
My bad. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I've seen the resin stuff in like stock ads. In fact, like there's a local LGS I could go to right now and grab some. So
I think it's a good segue and it's worth mentioning. Like, it's definitely one of the more unorthodox aspect of Trench Crusade. Is that and I think personally a good move from the company is that they're very in tune with like what the market looks like. So being able to buy STLs to print your own models or be able to buy the models yourselves means the game is relatively cheap to get into. If you want to buy like warbands or even full armies, it's definitely not on the expensive side, just because like if you have access to a 3D printer or even just buy the models off people, it's not that expensive compared to like a lot of the things out there.
Yeah, that they kind of took a different approach with this game too, which was kind of a new thing. Instead of like, protecting the IP and like hoarding it to some extent, they were really encouraging people to like, download the STLs and just print them yourself. So, as much as in miniature games, as much as like an open source game as I guess you could have,
it's at least like a lot more than what we're used to seeing on the market.
Yeah, definitely. As someone who's a little antiquated and also doesn't own a printer, a 3D printer, buying the model, they do have the option to just buy models from third parties. So, and now the plastic, as Ben mentioned, the plastic kit, 2-player starter set, it's all plastic too, so it's not resin. If that's another kind of setback for you. Cool. So without further ado, let's dive into more of the gameplay aspects of this game. So this is a skirmish game, right? Does it have an army form?
Not really. Usually you're looking at like somewhere between, like, depending on your mode of play, but if you're playing like one-off games, you're looking at somewhere between 8 and 12 models on the table usually.
Okay.
So it's like on the wider-ish side of skirmish games, but it's definitely not an army game.
And this was designed by people who did a classic GW game, right? If I remember correctly.
There's a lot of the designers and artists have worked on other games. I know one of the lead art directors worked on like both Diablo and some other games, and like they all have different experiences from other war games.
I'm thinking of one in particular though, a GW tabletop. I just forget the name. It was from a long time ago, like when we were kids. But anyways, enough about that. So how big is the map that you play on? What's the like table look like?
It's 4x4, so it's larger than MCP for those who play it. But depending on your scenario, you don't necessarily use all 4x4. Like some scenarios restrict you to a 3x4 table, and it really depends on like the scenario and game you're playing. But usually it's 4x4.
Okay. And like in terms of terrain too, like how interactive is the game with terrain? Like I know we talked a little bit about that was the other episode. The one we talked about on the other recording about us going to Simon and I were at an event and we went up to the Trench Crusade section and the tables were beautiful.
Really gorgeous.
And so like functionally though, how does like terrain work in Trench Crusade?
Basically there's one thing that's really important in Trench Crusade is that because the game is using trench warfare, you're basically always working on at least 3 vertical levels on your vertical axis. So you have the trench level, the ground level, and elevation. So like when you get into building. everything counts as a different level as long as you're moving more than 3 inches. So, like, if you're climbing down the trench has to physically be at least 3 inches deep. And if you're going on terrain, it needs to be at least 3 inches elevated in order to count as, like, an additional layer. So you're always playing on these layers to try to leverage positioning, and I think that's one of the, like, core important parts, is to really have these 3 layers to navigate. Because it's trench warfare, and it's very important for, like, a lot of the scenarios will use trenches and terrain to your advantage. So, like, unlike MCP, you can't move terrain, but there's some ways to destroy some of it or change physical terrain in game when you're using saboteurs for the most part. So, like, people with bombs can destroy preemptively terrain and, like, set up traps on round 0 in certain scenarios.
Okay, that's really interesting.
I think one of the Simon, I think you kind of speak the importance of that is the game is, we're jumping a little ahead, but the game is kind of deadly, right? I mean, you can lose models pretty quickly. So the terrain setup on turn 0 not only adds, like, this really important thematic setting, right? It's Trench Crusade, so it's probably good to have trenches in there, right, in some capacity. But it's necessary for the mechanics of the game, because you can, in the old Mordheim-esque, just like, oh, I walk out into the open net and I'm dead. And I'm out, lost a model. So, like, leveraging cover and terrain is really important, not just aesthetically, but mechanically as well.
Yeah, and, like, we spoke about the artillery witch, but there's some, like, factions who lean more towards using, like, heavy artillery or, like, bombardment mechanics. So, like, the Heretic Legion with the artillery witch is one of them. There's also one of the subsets of the Iron Sultanate, which, like, lets you bring cannons, which you can deploy and, like, shoot. So, like, in order to offset that, you can help your models get into trenches in order to not get bombarded as much.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's why the 3 layers here is important, because, like, it's easier to get bombarded if you're, like, in a house on a terrain than if you're dug up in your trenches. So that's why the, like, 3 layers is very mechanically important.
That's really cool. So, I've actually never played a game before, and obviously the name is Trench Crusade, right? But I do like the fact that despite that, they really it seems like the game mechanics really kind of play in and around the trench warfare, right? So
yeah, it's definitely an important part of, like, the gameplay and the game identity.
Oh, very cool. Which makes terrain even more impactful, right? Because and I know one of the boards we saw, Simon, too, is, like, these large dugout, really cool looking trenches, which is super cool because I don't know, a lot of games, if we think about it from, like, a terrain game over game, right? A lot of terrain features go up and not down in board games, which is kind of cool to add that, like, aspect to it, I guess, as well. So, all right,
but
so
there's a good example of that. Like, I was at a game store recently, and we were, like, watching people play one of the new scenarios, which is basically a supply train hijack, right? So, like, one of the players has to defend the train, the other has to assault the train. So, like, the train creates a level of elevation, but because it's, like, train tracks, there's also, like, dugouts on the side, so you have to, like, go downhill in order to go back hill and start to loot the train, which makes, like, for interesting differential positioning on assault and defense.
Yeah, because don't you get, like, bonuses or something if you're, like, above someone? Yeah. Okay, that's what I do remember that. Very cool. So, in terms of kind of general list building stuff, so turn 0, how exactly do you create lists? Like, we're talking about this like it's fresh and describing the system, right? So, are things super upgradable? Stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So basically, it's a point system. So if you played, like, 40Ks and a lot of, like, point by army games, it's very similar to those. You do have. There's mostly 2 different types of unit. You have elites and non-elites. So, like, your elites are usually your bigger, more expensive units, which have more ability and are more complex to play. Then you get your bread and butter, like the units that are gonna go in the meat grinder of the trenches first, right? So those are mostly the two big splits, and some, depending on like your faction and sub-factions, there's some restrictions of what type of units you can get in and what you can outfit them with. So for instance, if we take the Iron Sultanate, they have like a faction of assassins and a faction of alchemists. So like if you take their alchemists, they have a lot more I'm gonna say shenanigans, like they have more different type of ammos, grenades, and like alternative resources they can use.
Is there magic in this game? Just randomly came to me.
Yes, technically. It's mostly on the demons faction. Like you have Goetic warlocks, like that can use spells, but it's very, very low magic. Like there's very few units that can use like magic or magic adjacent things.
I think they have some prayer. They have clerics that do some prayers, I think, right? So the setting is, and actually one of the things I actually really appreciate about the setting that I think is kind of funny is that the demons, why they don't just like fully invade the earth is they know that heaven could just send archangels or angels and it would just nuke the world, like because there have been angelic presence that has showed up in the setting, but they describe it in the lore as like when an archangel or an angel shows up, it's like a tactical nuke. And just wipes. I don't remember which city in the lore happens after the portal gets open, but an angel shows up and like the city is just gone.
Just blows everything. Yeah.
Just blows everything up. So, the demonic side is like, well, we got to invade a little, like just enough not to like make heaven go, all right, cool, we're in this too. And there are times like one of the cleric snipers for New Antioch.
Yeah.
They intentionally blind themselves, which seems like an oxymoron for a sniper, right? But the sniper then gains the blessings of God to then see through all of this other shenanigans, as Simon said, and that's a really great way to put it. Who's then able to make these, bullet twisting. I can't remember the movie reference, right? When he twists the bullet. Those types.
The Matrix.
Matrix is a good one, but so there are some aspects of like magic, blessings, those types of things. But Simon's point, it's very, very low, and I think it's intentionally. So you're not going to be summoning more demons onto a battlefield. I think like the artillery witch is like one of the most magic users, if I can think.
Yeah, I think so. I think like her, the Goetic warlock, and like the sorcerer from the Heretic Legion are probably the most like magical units.
Okay.
But like you can count on one hand the units that are using like magic.
Okay. And what is the standard kind of point game for this at this point?
So basically there's two ways to play Trench Crusade. There's a campaign setting, which is closer to a Blood Bowl league. So like you're playing week to week and like increasing point value every week against your opponents, the opponents you're playing. Or you can play a like standard standoff one-off game on one of the scenarios, which is 900 ducats, which is points, and then you get a set of like glory points, which are what you would normally get in a campaign that's closer to your experience.
Oh, gotcha. And so like the campaign's built out where you can level up characters through glory points?
Yeah, that's correct. So basically that's where like your units being elites or troops makes a difference, because you can level up your elites and outfit them with like more expensive and better gear. They get additional abilities, whereas your troops are kind of just flat, right? Like you get them, you can upgrade their outfit, you can give them better guns, but it's not going to make them like infinitely more powerful.
Okay, so in the campaign setting, there's a lot more like kind of like cool things you can do with like equipment and stuff.
Yeah, there's like also exploration. Like it's, I feel really the closest thing is like a Blood Bowl League, where just the more you play, the more points you get, the more experience you get, and the higher your rewards, and the more powerful your list gets.
So do you think the system lends itself to that form of play more than like the just kind of one-on-one?
I think if you want to keep it fresh, you tend to lean more towards the campaign side of things, just because you can mix it up. You can play different variants of your factions. You can play different armies, and it just like flavors
Create a
out
story, right? Too,
Yeah.
which a lot of people like doing. So, you know,
Yeah, which like lends itself to a more narrative-driven play experience as opposed to one-off games. But I've seen a fair amount of both. So like, I think it really depends on how active or invested you want your local community or play group. Because I feel like if you're always playing with the same 5 or 6 people, and everyone plays the same army all the time, like you probably want to mix it up and play more leagues. While if you have like a wider net of player base, if you have like 20, 30 regulars to play this game, then just playing like standard one-offs might be more your jam.
yeah, it does. It does feel like it kind of like lends itself a little bit the way Necromunda does, right? To like a campaign.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see that there. So, so in general too, how do the turns work between the two players?
So it's alternate activation. So like I activate a model, you activate a model, and we go back and forth until we don't have anyone left. Then that's kind of basically it.
Wait, what is alternate activation? I don't play any game that's like that.
It is the superior way to play miniatures games. Sorry, just gonna throw that out there.
It feels better, definitely.
What was that, Ben?
I didn't say anything. Sorry.
Okay.
We have to edit that out. Sorry.
Editing. What do you think we are? All right. Yeah. Cool. So alternating activations, two players. Is there like a multiplayer mode, like 2 plus?
Yeah, there's one that came out recently. I haven't tried it yet, but you can play with up to 4 players.
Oh wow.
Which looked interesting and kind of spooky because like Trench Warfare at 4 looks kind of scary and long. So it's probably not, at least immediately, my cup of tea, just because like games are likely to go very long on it. But I'm definitely down to try it at some point.
Yeah, it's like a thing you could do like once a year or something. You know how people play like Starlight Imperium once a year?
Twilight Imperium, yeah.
Twilight,
or play
yeah.
like Apocalypse, like you play 10 or 15,000 points game of MCP.
Yeah, you mean 40K, but
40K, yeah.
That's a lot of MCP. That's a lot.
12,000 threats.
How about we put every hero you own and throw them at each other?
Just a whole collection. Let's do this.
Cool. So what do missions kind of like look like, feel like, play like?
So there's scenario packets where some of the scenarios are very symmetrical and some are very asymmetrical. So for instance, you have like one of the intro scenarios is basically just trench warfare. So like you're both camped up in trenches and you have to kill more dudes than your opponent. But like the other scenario I was talking about a little earlier with the train, where like one faction has to defend the train from being looted and the other has to loot the train, and that's how you score. There's scenarios where you have to control certain areas on the board. There's more objective-based scenarios. So for instance, there's one where your army has to defend a fortified position. You play with fewer points than your opponent, but you're starting from like a very advantageous board edge and position where like the field in front of you is trapped, you're on an elevated position, and the attacker has to swarm you in your bunker. So like there's a decent variety of scenarios.
Yeah, we'll note here too, they actually, so as we're like talking to, we'll talk a little bit about resources later, but on their website they have a really nice, cool kind of like scenario generator.
Yeah.
So I've just been playing around with that. Yeah. So it looks like, kind of different forms of deployment to pretty standard for a miniatures game, to be fair. But then the really interesting stuff is kind of like the victory conditions. They have 6 different ones. It looks like there's 7, 6. Yeah,
I
very
think
cool.
there's a little over 12 scenarios in the rulebook now.
Okay.
Also, good thing to know, like I was talking about saboteurs and infiltrators earlier, not all scenarios allow them. So, like, that's something to be cognizant where certain type of units will or will not be allowed on certain scenarios.
Okay.
So it's relevant there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I recommend playing around with that. I think probably the easiest thing to do is the kill one if you're just getting started, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a few, like, there's 3 or 4 scenarios that are, like, very good places to start early that are relatively simple to play and don't have a lot of additional conditions or, like, modifiers once you get there, right?
Okay. Yeah. Something like that's always good to start on. So you want to mention any kind of like cool and unique game mechanics that makes this stand out from a gameplay perspective?
One of the things that's cool for like gameplay wise for on scenarios is glorious deeds. So like when you're playing a scenario, you have like actions that will grant you victory points, but you can also do like glorious deeds, which are like these kind of achievements where if you get them, you get more bonuses, and it also acts as your tiebreaker in case. So that's very cool. I think for me the biggest like mechanical difference is how the combat works. So basically, all the none of the units have like set health pools, right? So when you quote unquote take damage, you get blood markers, which can be spent by your opponents to either buff their own attack dice or lower your dice. So basically, like, let's say my unit shoots your unit. It's a d6 system, so I'll roll like my 2d6, which is the standard amount, then check the injury table. So like on 1 or less, it's no effect. 2 to 6, it's a minor hit, so I give you 1 blood marker. On 7 to 8, your model goes down, so they're knocked down, and on 9 plus, they're KO'd. But these will be modified by like bonuses and armor, right? So like if I have an armor of like -2, I subtract 2 from your outcome. So for instance, if I roll a 8, which would put a model down, but the model I'm attacking has an armor of -2, it knocks 2 off my result, putting it down to a minor hit, so I just take 1 blood mark. So when you attack a model, you can spend blood markers to either bump up the number of dice you're rolling, or roll more dice on your injury roll. So like either to try to hit the opposing model or to wound them if you touch them. And when a model with blood marker attacks you, you can spend a blood marker on them to make their die roll worse against you. So, like, it has a nice tug of war, like, very interesting decision points when, like, you attack and damage, and when your opponent attacks and damage. You can always use the same resources to try to, like, leverage and help your model survive or help get their models down, instead of having like health pools.
It's a really neat like mini game, right? Of how do you leverage blood tokens? It's a really cool way that's different in using the D6 system. So it's a familiar system, right? If you know D6s, right? Like, hey, this is what you do. But yeah, that's really neat. Have you in your games had a neat interaction with that?
Yeah, that's definitely a big plus for me. And like it's something that's really maybe not super easy to like verbally explain, but if you have like the cheat sheet or the reminder sheet for the game in front of you, it's like two charts, and you look at it and it's like very, very self-evident. But it's like something that like makes visual sense if you have it. That's not like super intuitive to explain, but once you put it on the table, it makes for like very cool decision points all throughout the game.
Very cool. That's definitely definitely unique. Yeah, I remember reading some of the rules, and it was like because I haven't like played a full game before, just reading it feels confusing. But I feel like
Yes,
like it's
but
spirit.
like it looks worse than it plays. Like it
Yeah,
plays actually very fluidly.
yeah, you think it's very smooth and not like clunky or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Cool. So before we move on to like the sort of like new player stuff, anything else you kind of want to note about the gameplay that we haven't talked about?
I think when you start playing the game, like the difference in time between when you pick it up and when you like play a fluid game is pretty wide. Like the first games I played were closer to like 2.5, 3 hours long. When like we're both learning the game and learning what our units do and like just trying to get the flow of things, and the more you play, the more fluid it becomes. But I still think it's like a little over the 2 hour benchmark when you're like used to the game.
Okay, so on average, games about 2 hours. Then you would say.
Yeah, if everything's well oiled and like both players know what they're doing, I'd say about 2 hours.
Okay, so a little longer than some skirmish games, but not as long as like army games. So okay. So any mistakes you want to call out that like you think new players maybe make early when they're starting to get into this that you have learned from?
I think like especially since I was playing a lot of MCP where you use the tools, like as long as you're touching the tools, you can go to their full extent. I feel a few things that are like maybe difficult to grasp when you're playing Trench Crusade is that it's like kind of true line of sight, but not really. Where like the line of sight, you have to see the base of the model and at least like the, I'm going to say quote unquote main part of the model. So like if you have vestigial appendages on a model, like they don't count for your line of sight, but your base will. And because like when you put models down, you can physically just like put them on their side to know that they're down, or leave them up and put a down marker. Because both are allowed, sometimes it can get confusing and like annoying with line of sight. And I feel like that's probably one of my frustration points with the game is like some of these, like while trying to be flexible, they're just making it kind of more confusing. And I think like their line of sight rules probably hits that for me.
Okay. So just be wary of the line of sight. Anything else like when you're starting to play that you said it's pretty fluid once you get going though, like for the most part?
If both players know what they're doing, yes. It can get pretty fluid. And because it's an like army with loadout game, like it just asking to see your opponent's list and try to like figure out what they do will take more time than like playing a game of FC. So like you have to be cognizant of that. But besides that, I feel like things can get pretty fluid once both players are used to it.
Okay, very cool. So I think we're going to move on to kind of our last section here that we're talking about tonight. And that's like actually getting started or practical concerns and kind of hobby concerns. So what is like I mean, I know we kind of talked about this, but if you could summarize kind of the barrier to entry, like how much does it actually cost to start, and like maybe give Simon's Canadian. We'll try to convert real quick for everybody.
I'll do the head math.
Quick, someone do the math for us, quick!
So basically, like, I think, well, I'm going to speak from my personal experience, but I bought, like, the entire range of one of the factions. So, like, every single model they had in enough copies to make any permutations of this faction available to me. So, like, I have New Antioch like that. So I have every single unit at the maximum number of units they can field. And it costed me about $150.
Wait, really?
Yeah. And that includes like all the
don't tell that to Bork. He will buy every single faction.
And like that costed me about 150, like with conversion, 150 US, and that includes like all the mercenaries as well.
Oh wow, that's
so like it's
really low.
Yeah, it's not super expensive.
Bork's blood pressure is rising.
My
His
PayPal
wallet
paid
is getting
for.
worried.
Okay, so I mean, obviously about 100, so probably around 150 per faction to do that with, right?
Yeah, like I'd say, honestly, like if you want to raise the cap a little, you can put it at 200. But I feel for like $200, you can very reasonably own an entire faction and like enough units to do every single permutation of that faction.
Okay, and so when you got your models, right?
Yeah.
I have my models. Dun-dun-dunch. Click. Okay, now I have my models.
End of the episode, Bork will have every single faction. Look at that.
But so you get your models in the mail or whatever, however you acquire them. And so you build them up and whatever. So do you feel like your first game is like still you kind of understand what's going on? Like it's not too complex when you put them on the table?
I feel it kind of is because like it's a loadout game and there's a lot of things that you can put on your model. Like it's easy to do analysis paralysis. And I encourage anyone to like just pick up a stock like the warbands, like the default warbands that come in are good starting points for this. But they're not the most helpful with the loadouts. So that's one of the things I would encourage like anyone picking up the game to do is just like find one of the intro lists on like the Reddit or the main Trench Crusade Discord server. There's a lot of people there. They'll help you get going with a starter list that's not too complicated to play to get started.
Okay. And so where do you get your rules? Like practically or physically get them,
So on the Trench Crusade website, because it's a living document, so like there's the core rule book and it gets updated with there's updates every now and then because they're adding new stuff, they're adjusting models, making new scenarios. So you can go on the Trench Crusade website to find the rules, as well as the changelog for every major updates.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, there's a very clear section here. You can click on rules. They do sell a physical book though, don't they?
Yeah. I do have the physical book that I got from the original Kickstarter. It is gorgeous, and I have zero regrets.
My landlord has
that. Even though like some of the rules are already a little obsolete, some of the models have been tweaked since then. But the book looks freaking amazing. Definitely a solid purchase.
Very cool. So what is the like kind of what is the scene? Have you seen like the scene in the Americas? Like, what's it kind of look like these days?
I've been to a few cons where there were Trench Crusade. There were always around like 20 to 30 players. But for me, at least from the outside, like I've never participated in one of the North American Trench Crusade events. But for me, it definitely looks like they're kind of where the Lord of the Rings miniature crew are in terms of like player base and investment, and like their players and
have you seen an online scene or anything too?
There's a decent amount of activity on the TTS on the Trench Crusade Discord, and there's TTS channels and servers for each language as well. So like you can play TTS in French and Spanish and German. There's a shit ton of people there.
Very cool. I've actually never seen that with any game, so that's actually really inclusive, I think. Even like our old MCP, the main server does not have different language places.
They have different servers for each language or community, which I presume Trench Crusade has as well. But like, there's a big main hub that's run by the game company.
Okay.
So like, you can get games and rules, and like it's a good starting point.
Very cool. Would you say this game in general and community is kind of welcome to new players?
I think so. I mean, my experience has been nothing but positive for the most part. But I'm going to caveat that I'm not as invested as I am in like MCP community, but I've only had good interactions so far, and like the few games I've played on TTS were also super nice. So at least on my side, it's been pretty good.
Very cool. And is this a competitive game? Are there tournaments available? Like, what do you think about that?
I presume there is, but from my that's where my experience probably not the most representative or the best. But I presume there's tournaments, probably most in league formats or just like 1v1s that are getting run across. But it's not something I've looked into.
Yeah, I mean, and like to be fair, like you can get a general feel. Even if there are tournaments, I don't know. My general feel with this game is that maybe it is not the most competitive, But I haven't played it, so. What do you think it lends itself? Ben, you got something to say?
Yeah, so for me, I really think that if you're going to be playing Trench Crusade, I think you get the most bang out of your buck if you're taking more of a narrative approach to it. If you've played the Necromundas, the Mordheims, where your warband can get just like full of the shenanigans that are in the I was searching and tripped on a landmine and died. Well, there's, I just have this model that I invested all these points. Oh, he's dead now. I think that that's where games like this really, really thrive, is in the narrative format. Like I said, I'm sure with all things, there's a competitive Blood Bowl stuff. So, if you want to take this game competitively, I'm sure there's
you absolutely can. I'm sure you'll find people in communities.
Yeah. But I really do think that if you want the most fun, if you like grimdark stuff, if you like, telling a little narrative story of why your two warbands are fighting, you're going to get the most benefit by playing it narratively, following the campaign props, doing the little exploration stuff. I think that's where this game really, really sets itself apart.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I have the same feeling. Like, I don't know, like, I just like to ask that question because some games that come out or that we talk about, like, don't feel like they're initially designed to be competitive. And then people, the community takes them a different way, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
Like, I know there was, like, they were present at last Adepticon and they had a tournament there. And I think they're hosting, like, the other tournament I saw that was going on this summer was actually a 2-day narrative event.
Oh, cool.
So, like, I'm, like, from what I know, they're, like, doing kind of both simultaneously. So, like, you have room for narrative events at big cons as well as tournaments.
Yeah, and for our listeners out there who maybe are more competitively leaning, I highly, highly recommend, if not this game, others going to a narrative event. They are much different.
They're super fun.
Yeah, and you'll see some really cool things that you wouldn't see at like a standard kind of like competitive tournament. So, in any game system, I do encourage you to try those out at some point in your gaming career. Cool. And the game is supported by Factory Fortress Inc. Is that the company that?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, I'm just on their website, kind of like taking that. So
like I think so. I had mine 3D printed, so I can't say for sure for the like boxes you'll find in store, but it sounds right.
Yep. Okay. It's on their website. Again, you can find that at trenchcrusade.com to get that resource. And kind of like finally, if someone's on the fence about this game, Simon, what would push them to try this, and what also should maybe give them pause as like a final kind of thought?
Oh, that's a good question. I think like the game is both aesthetically and mechanically very interesting and distinct from most miniatures game I've seen and played. And I think that's definitely a big selling point, at least for me, where like it's very unique and there's not a lot of things that do what Trench Crusade does. And that for me is basically like it scratches a lot of itches and fills a very like distinct niche that I feel like no other war game had prior to Trench Crusade, besides like some historical war games. So like if you weren't into the just playing older battles and like playing things, playing historical war games, it gives you an option to like play in that setting without playing a historical war game.
Yeah, and it's got some really cool, as we talked about, some really cool, like, the setting's cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, despite being fucked up, it's super cool.
Yeah, I love it. Like, for me, it was definitely the biggest selling point.
Note to self, don't let Bork be a Templar. He will open a gate to hell.
Oh, so it's funny you mentioned Templars, because on my paper of notes here, I wrote down, I've been like really into Merlin recently. So
yep.
Yeah, so like I wrote down to mention Merlin. I did it.
Damn it, Bork.
It's all my fault.
No one let this man open any mysterious papers. You see a book
what's this?
Leave it alone.
Yeah, but thank you, Simon, for coming on and talking about this tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, so I think for our listeners here who listen to these maybe more regularly, all the different games too, I think our next one's going to be Conquest as well, so watch out for that. May or may not be playing that. Yeah,
look, if you guys are ready to take a ride, we will play every game.
Give
us a reason.
Send us your games to feed our addiction.
Yes. Don't tell my wife.
Specifically CC Alyssa so that she knows all about it. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, and thanks, Ben, also for being on here and asking some great questions. And you can follow us on our Discord, which there's a link below. Our email is aliveon1@gmail.com. Please leave a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you kind of listen to this if you like what you hear. If you are kind of here for the Trench Crusade and you've never listened to us before, we do regularly cover Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is another great game. In addition to starting to branch out to some other games like Conquest, AOS, Bushido. We've done Halo content too before now. So we're starting to kind of like hit the wide world of mostly skirmish games, but some full army games too. So our affiliate, Huge Miniatures, the link is below. You can buy some really great like painting and weathering stuff on their website. And I guess without further ado, let me hold on. I got to find a character. Godspeed, Lord of Tumors. All right.
That's weird.
Bye, everybody.